What the city is talking about.
The news that impacts you.
Welcome to the Montreal Now podcast
with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
Welcome to the week that was here on the iHeartRadio Network. I'm Aaron Rand along with Natasha Hall, and this week we'll take a look at these stories. The news of Tina Turner's death at age 83 shocked and saddened music fans around the globe during the week. We're going to take a look back on her life and hear in her own words why after so many years of performing and touring, she chose to live a different life.
So think about all the warning labels on everything, from cigarettes to electric cords, even food packaging. There's information on all kinds of things designed to keep us safe, right? So why are there no warning labels on alcohol bottles? One senator is working to change that. He himself is a recovering alcoholic, and he says Canadians need to know the risks associated with alcohol so they can make informed decisions. And this was a conversation we really want you to hear. It gave both Aaron and I goosebumps. It's just not every day that you get to talk to a living legend like Dr. Jane Goodall. She has done such important work, and while she may be 89 years old now, she's not done yet.
But we start today's show with a decision by David Johnston, the special rapporteur, not to call a public inquiry into alleged Chinese spying in Canadian elections, and his then calling out of Canadian media reports that first brought the issue to light. We speak with Robert Fife of the Globe and Mail. So there's been a lot of talk, certainly in the past 24 hours or so. David Johnston, the special rapporteur, announcing there's no need, in his opinion, for a public inquiry into alleged Chinese spying or interference in Canadian elections. But when he announced that yesterday, he also decided to take a shot, if you will, at Canadian media for having reported this story in the first place. We spoke to Robert Fife of the Globe and Mail when this first happened. Well, here's what David Johnston said yesterday about media's involvement in this.
The recent allegations of foreign interference in media reports have amplified public concern around these issues. They raise legitimate questions which deserve complete answers. Much of what has been reported has been based on limited and partial intelligence. That reporting has been made without the benefit of the full context provided by all relevant materials. Experienced, intelligent professionals understand that individual pieces of intelligence must be viewed with considerable skepticism. It is extremely rare to draw conclusions, much less take action, from a single intelligence report. Only upon seeing the full picture, with the benefit of all relevant intelligence, can one conclude that much of the reported intelligence has been misconstrued in media reports, presumably because of this lack of context in these instances.
Okay, there's a lot there to unpack. Robert Fife, on the line right now, Canadian journalist, Ottawa bureau chief at the Globe and Mail. Mr. Fife, first of all, thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
Please tell me your reaction to what you heard David Johnston say just now.
Well, he has found fault with some reporting, but the global TV's one, particularly in Handong, which he said was false. In terms of our reporting, we reported on the basis of written intelligence assessments and written intelligence briefs. These were documents that CSIS wrote, and we did not use anonymous sources. We were writing what the document said. So, for example, in the 2021 election, the CSIS documents quote the Consul General in Vancouver, the West Coast boss for the Communist Party of China, who had enormous influence within the Chinese-Canadian community in the Vancouver and British Columbia, as saying, quote, that she, quote, wanted the Liberal Party to win the 2021 election, unquote. It said that Ms. Tong, who returned to China on July 28, and another former consul, Wang Jin, made discreet and subtle efforts to encourage members of Chinese-Canadian organizations to rally votes for the Liberals and defeat Conservative candidates. And then in his report, Mr. Johnson says, well, they didn't really show a party preference. They wanted to support people who they thought would help China and to defeat people who might malign or not have the interest of the Chinese Communist Party. Well, in the 2021 election, the Conservative Party had campaigned on banning Huawei technologies from Canada, and had wanted to set up a foreign agent registry, which China had strongly opposed. So the evidence is pretty clear here that there was an effort, according to CSIS documents, that China would prefer to have liberals in government rather than conservatives.
So you heard David Johnston say in that clip that we just played that the media, and I'm guessing we're bunching everybody into that same sort of group here, didn't necessarily have, now that he's seen all the information, contextually everything they needed to draw that sort of a conclusion.
Well, I can't answer that, because all I can do is quote you what the Consul General, CSIS has the Consul General in Vancouver saying. I mean, it's a quote from her. So,
Mr. Fife,
we didn't miscrew anything. We reported what we were told in those documents.
It certainly seems like David Johnston is saying, well, if you could see what I saw, if you knew the whole story, then you would agree with me that we can't hold a public inquiry.
Here's another problem we have with David Johnston. He simply accepts the word of the Prime Minister and these senior cabinet ministers that they didn't know anything. I asked the Prime Minister. He said, "Oh, I didn't know that." I asked Bill Blair. He said, "I didn't know anything." That's the problem with these with this kind of an inquiry. If you have a judicial inquiry, you have full subpoena powers. You have the power to cross-examine witnesses, and you have the power to get all the documents you want to. And this is not a judicial inquiry. Doesn't just say, "Oh, well, you told me you didn't know anything about it." They will want to know the evidence to show that you didn't know anything about it. Follow the paper trail. Have people who are in your office cross-examine, even if there's a problem that you may see with the Prime Minister perhaps not telling you the truth. You call them and cross-examine them. That's why so many people, and particularly the three opposition parties, are saying we need a judicial inquiry into this, so we can actually find out what is going on and not simply take the word of politicians who it is clearly not in their interest to have an inquiry.
It sounds laughable when you say it, honestly.
Part of what came out in this report, in David Johnston's report, Mr. Fife, is he said there are no examples of ministers, the Prime Minister, or their officers failing to act, which seems completely different, if you will, from what you had said, which was, in fact, there was a failure to act.
Look, there was a document that, and the government themselves had to kick out a Chinese diplomat out of the country a couple of weeks ago. Document said they were, this consul in Toronto was attempting to intimidate Michael Chong, the conservative foreign policy critic, and his family members in Hong Kong. And nobody saw this document? Nobody saw it? Not the Prime Minister, not Bill Blair, the public safety minister at the time. Apparently, the top email system in his office wasn't working. And
Again.
Nobody in the Privy Council office would have said, "Holy Moses, look what they're trying to do. I'm going to run this in to tell the Prime Minister." But what does David Johnston do? Did you know about this? No, the Prime Minister told me he didn't.
Again, it absolutely sounds laughable.
Well,
So
I almost wonder, would it be fair to say, in your opinion, I think others have suggested the same, this idea of public hearings is basically a giant waste of time?
Well, it hasn't been public hearings. David Johnston, who is not a national security expert, is not a judge with national security credentials. He goes in and CSIS presents some of the documents to him. We don't even know if he questioned, "Well, I want to see more documents." "Oh, this doesn't make any sense." We don't know any of that. And then he comes out with a report, which basically, by the way, slams the media, which the media, by the way, if it wasn't for our reporting and global news reporting, even though they got some stuff seriously wrong, we would not even have an inquiry into this. And it wouldn't be the main issue in the House of Commons. Canadians have woken up just to the extent of how China influence in our politics, but also in how they try to recruit business people and how they intimidate their own, the Chinese diaspora in this country. All of that wouldn't be known if it wasn't for leaks to the media and reports about this. Otherwise, government would have covered it up.
So, Mr. Fife, then, David Johnston saying no public inquiry, but public hearings. In your opinion, what should happen next?
Well, I believe that what the country needs is a judicial inquiry with the full subpoena powers to not only get documents and witnesses and to cross-examine, so that we can actually find out if the government was aware of this, who was aware of it, why, if it didn't get to the Prime Minister, why didn't it get to the Prime Minister? We need somebody that the public will trust, because right now, when you have three opposition parties saying that David Johnston cannot be trusted, and what's I mean, he's a man of, I'm sure he's a man of great integrity, but let's face it, he's a Trudeau family friend. He was on the Trudeau Foundation.
Okay.
I mean, like, if he was a judge and Trudeau was a defendant before him, he would have to take himself off the case.
Mm-hmm.
Understood.
Yeah.
I want to ask you one last thing before we run out of time, and that's this idea, and the Prime Minister sort of made some hay, or tried to today in his press conference, talk about the fact that, look, despite what you may think, he's invited all the opposition members, parties, to go ahead, get security clearance, and go ahead and examine everything that Mr. Johnston has seen. And so far, we've heard from everyone that no one is going to do that. What do you make of that?
Well, the NDP leader said he would do it, but the Conservative and the Bloc Quebecois leader are not going to do this, and for this reason. If they see these documents and they are very troubled by it, they're bound by secrecy. So they're handcuffed. And so they will have members of their party look at these documents that they themselves do not want to swear an oath of secrecy, and then see these documents and then be prevented, because they would face prosecution under the Security of Information Act, from telling Canadians that they do not, they have very troubling, they're very troubled by what they may have felt that what Johnston did not go far enough, or they found some serious issues in how he gathered the intelligence. They can't say that because they could be prosecuted. So other members of the party will be able to look at that, but they themselves are not going to be doing that, because they want to be able to have the freedom in the House of Commons to be able to go after the government.
Right.
So an exercise in futility, as basically that turns out to be.
Yet another one.
All right. Mr. Fife, I want to thank you so much for your time and for all your work on this file as well. I think a lot of Canadians, as you said, appreciate the work that you have done, because without it, we might not even be talking about this today. So thanks so much. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye.
Robert Fife, Ottawa chief of the Globe and Mail. He is kind of the focus on this, right? Those articles are what kind of kicked off this whole investigation. So we shall see where it goes from here.
We're not going to get a judicial inquiry.
Yeah.
We're not getting a public inquiry. We're definitely not getting a judicial inquiry. But he's right to call for one.
Informative,
Interactive,
and always interesting.
This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
The news of Tina Turner's death at age 83 shocked and saddened music fans around the globe during the week. We're going to take a look back on her life and hear in her own words why, after so many years of performing and touring, she chose to live a different life. So we said we'd do a little something different. We learned yesterday, sadly, of the passing of Tina Turner. And I think when we both found out it was breaking news in the middle of the afternoon, we kind of like, what?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's another one of those, some of the amazing people who have passed literally in the last 3, 4, 5 years. David Bowie, Prince, and the list goes on and on and on. And Tina Turner right at the top of that list.
Where there's no one else like them. Never has been and probably never will be ever again.
So she died at her home in Switzerland, where she's been living or had been living for quite some time. She was 83. You may have heard she'd suffered health issues in past years, including cancer, a stroke, and kidney failure, and had basically been out of the business for a while. Might want to know she sold 200 million albums.
That's nuts.
Won 8 Grammys, and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, not once, but twice. Once in 2021 as a solo artist, and in 1991 alongside Ike Turner from back in the Ike and Tina days. And think about a career, and if you go all the way back, late 50s, that's a long time to have been around. 50s, 60s, 70s, and then kind of faded for a while till she resurfaced in the mid-80s, right?
And was
she
catapulted.
tells a really interesting story, by the way, about that.
Sure. And catapulted into superstardom at that point, at 44 years old.
Yeah.
I mean,
know what's interesting? I completely forgot this. At the age of 56... she was hired as the face, to be honest, mostly the legs, for a $20 million campaign for Hanes pantyhose.
Wow.
Tina Turner's legs. Remember, everyone? That was the deal.
Best legs
She
ever.
was 56. In 1985, she played the villain in the movie Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, which featured the song We Don't Need Another Hero, which went on to become a giant hit for her. But her first movie gig was in 1975. You remember this? Mm-mm. In the Who's rock opera Tommy, the movie version, she played the Acid Queen.
I had no idea.
Yeah, 1975. I want you to hear a couple of clips, then we'll talk to Bugs Burnett. So she was once asked who encouraged her, who inspired her to pursue her career, and I think the answer was quite surprising. Brian?
Me. All me. My family's very small. And I don't really discuss my desires with my family in that sense. That's all very private, you know. A few very close friends that I would talk about. Yeah, they knew I wanted to be an actress, but that's like, sure, and I want to be a singer. I mean, everybody has all these things that they want to be. It's like, sure, maybe you'll get there. But it wasn't that person there that's going, do it, you'll get it, don't worry, you know. But then when I changed management and I sat down and talked to Roger Davies, he believed in me, or else he would not have taken the time. Mm-hmm. He finally came to see the show and saw that the potential was there, and that there needed to be some changes. And I believed that he could do it. I just sort of felt like I was this entity that no one knew where to put me. And then finally someone said, well, I'll take her and find out where she goes.
That marked the second part of the career, right? When she's kind of relaunched, if you will. As I mentioned, she gave up performing live. And I remember at the time, we were talking about this back in the day.
Yeah.
It was the farewell tour followed by the last farewell tour, followed by the final last. She did that a couple of times. That became a thing in concert
I saw
touring,
one
right?
of them. Yeah, around the same time Cher was doing that. But I mean,
but
Tina
was Tina
live.
Tina was incredible.
Oh.
She gave up performing in 2009 live when she was about 68 years old. And she went on Oprah's Next Chapter 4 years later, 2013, to explain why.
No one ever knew on stage how much I really was tired of singing and dancing. It's work. It's something when you do all of your life, every night, that's all you do. Everyone is having a good time. You're up there working. It just was years and years of work. And if I ever go back for any reason in any way, no one ever wants to see Tina do performance any other way than that. So I don't think they would accept me standing in a wonderful gown singing. That's not me.
I guess that's probably true, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was such incredible energy on stage. Can you imagine just her getting up and she didn't want to do it anymore? That would have not been Tina Turner. And then, as I said, in one of her last interviews, so this is about 5 years ago, from her home in Switzerland, asked by the interviewer then how she was feeling, this is after a stroke, and then a kidney transplant, she said this.
Death is not a problem for me. I don't really mind leaving.
Right.
I know a lot of people don't think that way, but I'm happy that I do because it's something that is inevitable. So you can live with one kidney. So Irvin said to the doctors, can I give her one of mine? Something similar to this. I wasn't there. And then he found out that he doesn't need two kidneys. So then he came to me and said, Tina, you don't have to make this decision now. I can give you one of my kidneys. I said, oh, Irvin, you're young. I'm already older. It's okay. You just get used to me not being here. Oh, no, he didn't want that. So then he talked me into him taking on one kidney. So I said, well, no, I have to talk to the doctors. And then I talked to them about Irvin and what will happen to him because he was still quite young. And I did feel like I was older. I was already in my 70s. So why should I take the kidneys from a young man and let him finish his life? That's what I felt like. And he said, no, my life is fine how it is. I'll give you one of my kidneys.
So the obvious question is, you're 79 next month. You've had your stroke, you've had cancer, and you've had a kidney failure and a kidney replacement. How are you, Tina?
I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. I'm happier than I ever thought that life would become for me. So that means that most of my hardships came while I was young and growing up. And in the last days, when normally people suffer from old age and sickness, my happiness came. I'm really thoroughly happy.
Oh,
isn't that great?
How good is that to hear?
She's 78 back then. She died at 83 yesterday. And by the way, the Irvin she's referring to was her husband, was her husband at the time, Irvin Bach, who was 16 years younger than she was, who she, of course, called her true love. She tells the story about having met him and how he picked her up at a show and they fell in love. And that's who she talked about, and that's where the kidney came from as well. It's an amazing story, and just to hear that she was happy at the end, I think that says everything.
Yeah.
BUGS BURNETT is on the line. So, BUGS, I don't know how much of that you heard, but I know you were a giant fan. So, first of all, tell me your reaction when you heard the news.
Well, like everybody else, I was shocked and saddened. But I find that the adoration, the outpouring of love in the last day is remarkably different than, for instance, what we saw with David Bowie or even with Prince. People, even though this is a sad moment, people are actually rejoicing and celebrating her life because she just gave off such positive energy and such good spirit and such positivity that she brought to her life and everything that she did on stage.
You know, you talk about a fan. Natasha told me when you guys spoke that you'd been to 30 shows, so obviously she was something especially, I mean, really special for you. Why was that? What was the attachment?
Well, she's a pop icon, rock icon, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm a gay man, and so she is also a drag icon and a gay icon. She fulfills that great diva narrative where the diva overcomes the great struggles and love conquers all. And she just rose like a phoenix from the ashes to overcome just these crushing personal and societal obstacles. And I grew up listening to her on my father's 8-track tapes, Ike and Tina. And the first time I saw her was in August 1984 at the Spectrum. She did 2 nights. It was August 30th. It was a Thursday night. And I remember from the night, she had found out earlier that What's Love Got to Do With It was going to be number 1 that weekend on the Billboard Hot 100. So I was there for the 7 o'clock show. She did 2 shows. She was supposed to do a 10 o'clock show. At the 7 o'clock show, she came out on stage. She opened up with ZZ Top's Legs. It was just phenomenal show. I remember that show like it was yesterday. And the Montreal Fire Department shut down her 10 p.m. show because of Spectrum fire code violations, believe it or not.
Too many people.
Hey, Bugs, guess who else was at that show?
Yeah, I was at that show, Bugs. 1984. It seems to me, you have a much better recollection than I do, but I don't know why I think this. I remember her being on stage, a white dress with red polka dots. Am I crazy?
I don't think so.
That's not what she was wearing? Because I remember seeing her in that building.
That.
No. That's she was. And I remember the great thing about the Spectrum back then. Literally, you could walk up to the front of the stage.
I love that venue.
Right? People were standing on the floor, right?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, you're this close to someone who, a year later would be playing the Forum. It was pretty remarkable.
I remember, when she came, she played the Forum, and I remember the date for this one as well. It was July 19th, 85. I brought my mom. My mom is the same age as Tina. My mom had never, ever been to a rock concert in her life. And so there was my mom wearing a leather mini skirt and heels, and I took her to see Tina. And I've said this story a million times, but I had more fun watching my mom watching Tina
I bet.
Well, your mom is something.
Show. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And from that point on, over the next 20, 25 years, my mom and I saw Tina some 30 times. And in 2018, we even flew to London to see the musical, Tina the Musical, at the Aldrich Theatre in the West End. We were absolutely diehard fans. The first time my mom saw Tina, she was hooked. And I got to tell you, I was talking to one of my best friends, Montreal soul singer Michelle Sweeney, this afternoon. We were talking about, how after 50 years in the trenches, Tina had earned a well-deserved retirement. But her retirement years were also really quite difficult. 2 of her children passed, including a son who committed suicide. She had all these health issues and stuff like that. And so I kind of had wished that she'd had an easier retirement. Mm-hmm. She deserved that. But like Michelle said, it's not exactly the saddest. It's a moment to celebrate. Last night in Detroit at a Janet Jackson concert, 15,000 people were singing What's Love Got to Do With It. Yeah. Last night in Phoenix at a Lizzo concert, Lizzo came out and said, there is no rock and roll without Tina Turner. And then she proceeded to sing Proud Mary right down to the dance moves. Wow. And the entire audience of 20,000 people were singing Proud Mary with her. This is the kind of effect that Tina this is rejoicement. This is joy. This is celebrating Tina. It's remarkable, the effect that Tina's just had on the wider culture.
Hey, Bugs, thank you so much for coming on and recounting those stories and basically letting people know, this is one of those cases where we look at someone's career and what they've contributed to music, to women in music, and rejoice at the fact that at least we had a chance to have a talent like that around. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Bugs.
Seems only right to, for those of you who are Tina Turner fans, and I imagine that's probably everybody, just before we get to traffic, to play this. That's Tina Turner, by the way, with our very own Bryan Adams and It's Only Love, which they did together. So there you go, looking back on the remarkable career and life of Tina Turner.
I found out last night that video was recorded in Canada on stage in Newfoundland. I'd never known that before.
It was part of the Juno show, if I'm not mistaken.
That? I don't know.
There
That's
you go.
Awesome.
A little late. I apologize, but hey, had to do it, I think,
Tina.
right? Yeah.
Informative.
Interactive.
And always interesting.
This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
This was a conversation we really want you to hear. It gave both Aaron and I goosebumps. It's just not every day that you get to talk to a living legend like Dr. Jane Goodall. She has done such important work, and while she may be 89 years old now, she's not done yet. Dr. Jane Goodall is a truly extraordinary person. She has become a household name, right, for her work with chimpanzees and as a conservationist. She's someone who quite literally has changed the world. Last night, she spoke at a sold-out event at Place des Arts. We are absolutely thrilled to have the chance to speak with her now. Thank you for your time today, Dr. Goodall.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
You are 89 years young. You've spent most of your life, almost all your life, doing this important work. How worried are you about our current state and what the future holds?
Well, I mean, the current state is grim. It really is. Environmentally, socially, politically. Got the horrible war with Ukraine, and then there are wars and conflicts all around the world, which aren't only causing massive human suffering, but also harming the environment. When you consider that climate change is partly due to burning fossil fuels and modern warfare. And, how do I think about the future? It depends on how we take action now, because we know what we need to do, but do we have the will to do it? Can we persuade businesses and governments soon enough to stop doing things for immediate gratification at the expense of future generations?
How do you keep going? How do you keep your hope up? And what drives you when things are in such a bad state of affairs?
Well, I think what drives me is, one, I'm obstinate and I'm not going to give up. Two, I do have reasons for hope in the amazing human intellect. We're beginning to, develop renewable energy and so on. Secondly, nature's amazingly resilient, given a chance. Places we destroy can come back and be beautiful again if we give them a chance and maybe a helping hand. You probably know about the Regreening Project in Sudbury. I've been there twice, and we're launching an IMAX film with a whole section on that amazing work where totally blackened mountains are now green and with trees and wildlife back. So, nature's resilient. And then, especially and most, is the energy and commitment and passion of young people once they know the problems and once they're empowered to take action and choose what their action will be.
Can I ask, having done this for so much of your life, to Natasha's point, have you ever had moments, because you're describing a pretty bleak situation now with respect to what's going on in the world, and I think a lot of us probably agree with your assessment. Have you ever had moments when you've said, you know what, I don't see a future here, I don't see things getting better, and I think I'm just going to stop?
Never will I just stop. It does seem at times that things have got much worse, but on the other hand, awareness of the problems has grown exponentially. So it's a seesaw, and the media could do a whole lot more because, yes, we need to know the doom and gloom. We must know what the problems are. But at the same time, there are so many incredible projects and incredible, amazing people around the world. And we need more stories of that so that people will say, gosh, they did that. We could do it too.
I hope, I love that you touched on, there's more hope for future generations. I love your impressions, Dr. Goodall, on Canada specifically, because I feel like there's a lot of talk here about that. Well, just that there's a lot of talk and not much action. We talk the talk, but we don't walk the walk. What are your impressions of what we're doing here, and are we doing enough?
Well, I mean, I don't really, I come to Canada maybe once a year. I know that the Jane Goodall Institute Canada is doing a lot, developing the program for young people, roots and shoots, including in the indigenous communities, which is really important since they've stewarded the land for hundreds and hundreds of years. And they're also raising money and contributing to many of the programs we do in Africa. But the Canada as a whole, I don't know enough about it, so I wouldn't like to venture an opinion.
That's fair.
Can you talk then about world governments, because you have been around the world, and whether you're encouraged by reaction globally to some of the problems?
Oh, gosh, some countries are encouraging and other countries are not, and it depends on changeover in presidents or prime ministers, and that's changing all the time. So it's really difficult to comment on that. I don't like to be honest.
That's fair. Well, I loved what you said about having hope that future generations are going to pick up this challenge and do better than current generations and past generations are. What are you seeing in our youth of today that gives you that hope?
Well, when they're allowed to choose their projects, they can roll up their sleeves and enter them with huge passion. And, they're planting trees, they're clearing up trash, they're raising money to have a new shelter for homeless dogs. They're raising money to help the homeless. It's just, the thing is that they can choose something they're passionate about and either join an existing group and devote their time and their talent there, or they can start something on their own. And it's happening. It's happening everywhere.
Can I ask as well, and I realize this is a bit of a broader question, for having done this for so long, when you look back now on everything that you've seen, everything that you've been through, with the benefit of hindsight, would there have been anything you would have done differently?
I'm often asked that, and I've thought about it, but quite honestly, not really. I mean, of course I've made mistakes, but I've learned so much from those mistakes, and I think that's really helped me to develop. And, being nearly 90, I don't know how much more I will have time to learn. I like to feel that every day I learn something new, talking to people, reading things, and so on. So, yeah.
Along those same lines, then perhaps I'll ask, looking back on everything that you've accomplished, and that list is beyond long, what would you say that you're most proud of? Or perhaps looking forward, what would you like your legacy to really be?
Well, I think my legacy perhaps in two areas. One, because of the chimp research, it gradually changed the attitude of science towards animals. When I began 1962 in Cambridge University, in the UK, I was actually told that humans were the only beings on the planet with personalities, minds capable of solving problems, and emotions. We were the only sentient beings. And that we now know, and the chimps broke the ice in a way. And so now, we're studying the intelligence of rats, the intelligence of crows and parrots, the intelligence of the octopus, pigs as intelligent or more so than dogs, rats trained to detect landmines by smelling the explosive and make a little scratch so that the landmine can be detonated. And I'm sure you've seen my octopus teacher. The stories of octopus intelligence are amazing.
They truly are. We're going to run out of time. I would just simply ask you, again, contextually here, do you think, knowing everything we know now and much of what you've uncovered in the work that you have done, that we are treating our animals better than we ever have before, or not?
Oh, in some ways, yes, but we've got so far to go with the factory farming, the animal trafficking. But, slowly little victories are being made here and there. Needs to be faster. Definitely, there's too much cruelty.
All right. Ms. Goodall, as Natasha said, it's an absolute privilege for us to have you on with us today. Thank you so much for your time and continued success. We hope to talk to you when you're 100.
Well, thank you. And just remember, everybody, that every single day we live, we make an impact on the planet. We can choose. Let's choose wisely.
Oh, how beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lovely talking to you. Bye.
Bye-bye now. Thank you.
Dr. Goodall.
Informative.
Interactive.
And always interesting.
This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
So think about all the warning labels on everything, from cigarettes to electric cords, even food packaging. There's information on all kinds of things designed to keep us safe, right? So why are there no warning labels on alcohol bottles? One senator is working to change that. He himself is a recovering alcoholic, and he says Canadians need to know the risks associated with alcohol so they can make informed decisions.
Came across a story. This is actually in the news, I believe, just yesterday. The country of Ireland has just become, they say the first, but there are others doing similar things. But Ireland is becoming the first country to now require alcohol and spirit manufacturers in that country to put a warning label on their bottles. Now, it's not going to go into effect for, I think, about 3 years. But the fact of the matter is that Ireland senses there is a problem, wants to do something about it. And then closer to home, we discover that Senator Patrick BRAZEAU, and I'd like to apologize for saying former senator, he's very much a sitting senator, Canadian Senator Patrick BRAZEAU, who himself has had his uphill battle with alcohol. He's now been sober 3 years and is trying to introduce a bill for the Canadian government to sort of follow suit. Senator BRAZEAU is on the line. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. How are you today?
We're doing pretty good. I want to sort of follow up on this Ireland story, which I think caught a lot of people by surprise, and ask you what it is in your particular bill that you want to see done. Is it kind of a carbon copy of what they're doing there?
Well, it's a little bit different. Essentially, my bill would require three things. One, it would be to find out what is a standard drink. Secondly, how many standard drinks are in a container, a can, a bottle, etc. And thirdly, it's a clear message from Health Canada to Canadian consumers all across the country that the small consumption of alcohol could lead to at least 6 known fatal cancers. And so I believe that given the fact that only 25% of Canadians are aware of this information, that we need to get this number up, and Canadians need to be more educated with respect to the causal link between alcohol consumption and cancer.
Senator, you have publicly admitted that you have had your own struggles with alcohol consumption. So clearly you're personally invested in this. Do you think warning labels of this sort really would have made a difference for you?
Well, obviously that's a hypothetical question. Look, the reality is that, in fact, yes, I did have problems. I did abuse alcohol for a number of years, which led to 2 suicide attempts. And so, fortunately, I was able to survive those suicide attempts and be in a position to introduce a bill. Yes, it deals with alcohol and the negative impacts of alcohol, but this is really a fight against cancer. I lost my mom to lung cancer in 2004, and I fought a very known boxing match to raise funds for cancer awareness. So I'm just continuing the fight for the many Canadians who are affected by cancer, but now also who are affected by the negative impacts of alcohol, because I think that both these issues have impacted all Canadian families in some way, shape, manner, or form.
Yeah, and if you look at the stats, and in reading the article, so alcohol consumption, leading cause of preventable death in Canada. Even what you're asking for seems a lot more moderate than what they're doing in a place like Ireland, but you're still getting pushback from the government. I mean, why does that exist? What is their argument to you?
Well, look, the pushback that I'm receiving right now is actually from the alcohol industry themselves. It's up because they don't want the term cancer on their product, because that's going to lead to decreased sales, and so we know that labeling works. And in fact, in 2018, there was a test trial with labeling of alcohol products in the Yukon. And after 30 days, sales went down by almost 7%. And so labeling worked in a 30-day period there. But because of the alcohol lobby and how powerful they are, ironically, that pilot project was terminated after 30 days. And so they certainly don't want this bill to pass. But given the fact that they're not taking responsibility to share this information with Canadians, I feel that now it's up to governments to step in to provide this information to all Canadians so they can make better informed choices for themselves.
So if that pushback exists from the industry, do you think, or would you want Canadians interested in seeing something like this passed, or at least brought up, to kind of lend their support? Will that help?
Well, I've been in Parliament for 14 years, and oftentimes when things happen, when new policies occur, it's usually when Canadians speak out to political parties. And so, like I said, the current landscape is that 80% of Canadians currently consume alcohol, but only 25% of those are aware that there's a causal link between alcohol consumption and cancer. And so I think it's going to take a lot of time to educate Canadians, but now the alcohol industry, they've now been warned, and the government of Canada has now been warned that this is a pressing matter, because it's all about the health of Canadians and their right to know this health information, because for far too long alcohol has been accepted in our society. But it doesn't take a rocket science to know that this substance is not good for us. And so let's have a discussion, and let's start the debate about how to better protect Canadians with respect to alcohol.
I want to go from that, Senator BRAZEAU, to Dr. Tim NAIMI. He's director of the Canadian Institute for Substance Use and Research at the University of Victoria, and he's on the line. Dr. NAIMI, you heard what Patrick BRAZEAU had to say with respect. I guess we can talk about a couple of things here. Number one, that so many, a quarter of Canadian drinkers have no idea that alcohol can cause a variety of cancers.
Yeah, I think the senator makes a lot of great points. Yeah, this is providing information, and you guys asked a question whether labeling works. And I think it matters. Yes, it works. And one thing it works at very, very well is providing information to Canadians and addressing that knowledge gap. And if industry and government says, we don't want to tell people what to do, we want to have informed citizens and let them not be the nanny state and let them make their own decisions, that's out of one side of their mouths. And then out of the other side of their mouth, they're saying, no. Gosh, we just, invested all this money on having the new Canadian guidance on alcohol and health, of which I played a part. We don't even want to put this information on our website, let alone on the bottle, for example, because, if the guidance says, hey, drinking less is better, and if I want to reduce my risk down to a level of even 1 in 100 chance of dying a premature death due to alcohol, I got to get my drinking down to 6 drinks a week. Well, I pick up a bottle of whiskey, and all it says is that there's 40% ABV. It doesn't even say what ABV is on the bottle. So I have no idea how many drinks are in a bottle of whiskey. 17, I'll tell you. it's not secret, but the government doesn't want you to know that apparently. And the size of a standard drink, as Senator BRAZEAU was mentioning, I mean, even that basic information about serving sizes, when the government is telling people to reduce or suggesting if they want to improve health to reduce their consumption. So that's just the basics about serving size, same as you get on a can of peas, but somehow alcohol is exempt. And then we get to the health warnings, which of course we have for tobacco and cannabis, but again, somehow alcohol is exempt. So the whole thing seems to be information that certainly industry doesn't want to know. But I wouldn't really expect anything other than industry. But when the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions appears to be more aligned and is more akin to the Minister of Beer Canada and not to prevent mental health and addiction problems, then I think that's too bad.
It's highly problematic, yeah, and that's where I find it confusing. I'm thinking about those warning labels on cigarettes. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Yeah, some people will stop smoking because they realize the risks involved. The same thing will ostensibly happen with alcohol, but shouldn't our health come before profits?
Well, the government, again, because alcohol is a dangerous product, but it's a legal product, that's where the government is supposed to play the role of the regulator. They have a very strong health and safety mandate. So yes, absolutely, they're supposed to be the regulator. They're supposed to be putting the brakes on because, one of the things that allows alcohol to be sold and accepted is having good, regulation in place so that as few people are harmed as possible. And that's not just the drinker, him or herself, but also family members or people who are driving on the road with you. So yeah, this is the role of government. It's, again, the industry ideally would be participating, but that's not how it works. So again, it's so ironic that, the minister announces her support for, quote, self-regulation, which, in my books, regulation doesn't really mean getting to do whatever you want. But right after a meeting with Beer Canada, and again, her portfolio is mental health and addictions. And I wasn't aware that, Beer Canada probably does a lot of things, but I wasn't aware that they were kind of big contributors to solving mental health and addiction problems. So I'm concerned that at different levels of government, we have this sort of lack of interest or actually a disregard for communicating facts to the Canadian public. And I really think this is not about whether labeling is effective, but it's about consumers' right to know. And when we know, again, the nutritional content of a can of peas and corn, but we don't know how many drinks are in a bottle of alcohol, I mean, it's a joke.
Yeah, it's problematic to say the least. Agreed. Dr. NAIMI, I want to thank you for your time. Senator BRAZEAU, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
That wraps up another edition of The Week That Was here in the iHeartRadio Network. I'm Aaron Rand along with Natasha Hall, and we will see you next week.
Have a great week.
This has been the Montreal Now podcast with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
Listen live on your radio weekday afternoons from 2 to 6
on CJAD 800
or through the iHeartRadio app.